I'm going to show you how I built this dollhouse. It's a non-conventional scale size. So with a ruler that shows you how big it is in comparison. 4 rooms, but the inside walls can come out. I designed it that way so she could play around with designing or rearranging the rooms however she wanted. The roof is made from just black paper. The windows are made from plastic that I got from salad containers, and then the black stock paper. Yeah, so let's get to it. I'm at my local Dollar Tree.
First thing on the list is foam board. You want 2 of these. Next is black poster board. Any glue will do. You'll need some type of long piece of wood. This is a template that we're going to be making for the roof.
Not only your materials, but a lot of your tools can be picked up at the dollar store. This is a great one of those first starter projects.
Now you need some piece of plastic. You can pick it up here at the dollar store, or you can go to your local grocery store, buy some salad. This is what I ended up using for my first
There
build.
were a few things I couldn't find at the dollar store. Normally I can, but I couldn't today. So we're heading over to our craft store. Our toothpicks, I prefer them thinner than this, but basically the idea is to get the coffee stirrers. That would be the ideal thing. You know, the siding on the white side on the white at the ridges. Those things on my original home, house I built, dollhouse, I used this really, really thick cardstock. I cut it in like 3 pieces about like this big, and then I ended up gluing them together to make them even thicker. And then I cut those into thin slices, and that's what I used. Now this is what I advise you guys to do if I can just find it. Here we go. Foam sheets. You get the thin stuff with the adhesive already on it. That's what you cut into slices and then put on the siding. And it will save you so much more time. I also ended up using some of this for carpet as well.
Just take a good close look at this picture and make a list of those tools, because those are the ones I use.
Make sure your knife is sharp. One of the challenges that I've found over the years of working with X-Acto knives seems to get dull very fast. I finally came across one of these. Now, I picked this up at, I think, Burt Brothers or AutoZone diamond sharpener. Anytime I feel like this is getting a little dull, I just give it a little rub and then wipe it down, and it's good to go.
I've set this up so you should be able to just take this to Office Max or Office Depot or a printing shop and ask them to print this out on their plotter. So after they print it out, you basically just put this on your foam board that you pick up from the dollar store, or I mean, you can even pick it up at Office Max if you want. It's the best is actually the dollar store board. Everything else has either a gloss to it, or it's just not as nice to work with, honestly. What you see here are the different measurements. I've saved you some time here putting the measurements on these different boards. So these are the outside facing boards. So if you look here on the design, lines up with basically everything here. You can see that these right here are guides to where you want to put your siding. And this right here is a guide of how long you want to cut your framing. There's 2 ways you can cut your foam. So you can just put the entire piece of paper on there with some painter's tape and then cut it out. Or you can do what I did, which I cut the individual pieces out of the paper and then put them on the board. That way I would cut them one at a time so I could get the cuts even closer to each other and save some foam.
Having painter's tape comes in handy. I picked this up at Michael's, so this is drafting tape, which works just as well, if not a little better. It has a little less of a stickiness to it, but it has just enough to hold my paper down. I always start with the corners when it comes to inside cuts. So I will poke straight up and down in the corners first, like that. Sometimes if I don't want my straight edge to move, like if it's moving too much for me on a day, I'll throw some of this down on one side just to hold it there so I can focus
And my first cut is always cutting the paper first, and then my second cut is to cut all the way through. There we go. Straight up and down. Okay, so before I pull it out, I want to check the other side, see if I cut all the way through, which looks like I did. There's a part right here that, oh, nope, goes all the way through. There you go. Pro tip, when it comes to pulling your tape off, right here is the paper edge, right? You don't want to pull into the edge, you want to pull out. So, because if you pull in, it's gonna take up your paper. But if you pull out, the chances of it taking up your paper is far less. There you go. So this wall right here has 2 layers, and the inside layer has that cut on it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think the foam board is the same wherever you go. It may or may not be, so you want to double check the thickness, but I marked it here, so where you want to cut. But you just want to double check to make sure it's 5 millimeters on average is what I get. So you can fit the upper floor and have it fit nicely. And that goes for both sides of just the side walls. The front wall, I didn't design anything like that for it because I felt like it doesn't need it. Just the supporting there, and then the double layer for the second floor. When cutting your strips for your siding on the strips are 5 millimeters long. I mean width thick. They're 5 millimeters thick. You'll be cutting probably 10 to 15 of them, almost half the page. And this is also what you're going to be using for the framing of your windows. Okay, when you're doing your frames, you want the frame to stick out just a little bit like that, so it holds your window in there just right. You know, it snugs it in. Looks all nice there at the bottom, see? Frame is a half a millimeter or half a centimeter, and that is halfway off of the edge of the window cut. On the printout, I have the sizes and the guide to both the frame and the windows themselves. All right, next step is the windows, and we're gonna use this plastic to make the windows. So let's prepare it. Here I'm cutting off the side. I just want the flat part. Everything else isn't necessary for this project. I need to make sure I have a straight edge as well as a straight corner to work with. It just makes it a lot easier when it comes to cutting all of the windows out. It's just making sure I'm starting with a straight side, you know? You have this extra piece here. And this piece right here is your perfect template to cut out your window that will then fit inside here. Okay, let's see if that fits. Oh, fits pretty well. Now let's get our black paper. As you can see here, I marked 5 millimeters a couple of different times right there. And we're gonna do that to the bottom and then to the top as well. So I did that here. Okay, next is we're gonna cut some strips of 1/4 centimeters. Right, something I learned fairly recently. When it comes to cutting at such a small scale, I mean, we're looking at like 2.5 millimeters here with these strips. You actually, instead of marking it with a pin, you want to actually make the cut as the mark, because that way you can line up your blade with that cut, if that makes any sense. So you can get more accurate with the cut. So we're gonna do this a couple on each side. There's one side. My thing has some cork on the one side. Turn it around so I can get it closer to my paper. And then I'm gonna put my knife in the cut I made so I can line that up just right on this side, hold it, go to the other side, put it in the hole, and then put it down, come back to this one, make sure it still fits in that hole. There we go. Go back to this one, make sure it's still lined up. Okay, so they're both lined up, and I'm gonna make 3 cuts. I might press down a little harder on the second one. There we go, it comes out very nicely. But when you can see it fraying like that, that means your knife needs to be sharpened or replaced. While our hot glue is warming up, we're gonna prep these. So I'm gonna clip these ends off where I marked it because it's white, and we don't want that to show. Okay, I normally I start with the bottom and the top first. So imagine this white piece of paper as the clear piece. So I'm going to line it up and snip. We need 4 of these. 2, 3, 4. Now we need the other side. 2 of these next to each other, like so. 4 of these. 1. Now that I have the 1, I'm just going to use the 1 to measure everything else off. 2, 3, and we'll get the 4th one in a minute. To glue it, there is a certain technique to gluing. There we go. Whoops, that was too much. I'm going to stretch it. When you get to the end, you go all the way out, and don't bring the hot glue over the top, because that string of hot glue will then get in on your thing and it won't look good. Line that up to the edge, like so, and press. So you want to press in and squeeze out. You want to press down on the inside out. That way it squeezes the hot glue outside instead of squeezing the hot glue onto the window. Now let's do the other side. All the way that direction. And then press down and adjust it while you still can. Let's get that bead off. See how that bead came off the edge? Go. And then pull away. When it comes to the center ones, you should be able to have that template that will help you know where center is that I provided. Since it's so small, I'm gonna mark this part right there. Double check to make sure I got it right. Yep, I glue it from that mark over. Okay, there we go. Then you gotta work fast because it's such a small bead. I'm gonna guesstimate this because I don't have my guide. Then you push it up against that side, push it down lightly, back and forth. And if you didn't quite get it on there in time, you can always clean the top of your hot glue and just slowly press up against it. And that will also reheat the hot glue and fix it. I'm gonna lightly cut this end as close to this side as possible until it just pops off. There you go. And that's how you do the center. We'll do it one more time. Touch it and then pull as I push. That way I can get a smaller bead. Pull as I push. Get there. There we go. Go. There. There you have it, guys. Now you do the same thing for the other side as well. That way it kind of hides all of this, and it should look just like this on both sides. There you go. All right, here I'm showing you how to make the ridges in the roof. The ridges on the roof are about 1 inch apart. So I'm creating 3 ridges templates in this piece of wood. So basically they're, like I said, 1 inch apart, and I am cutting through. So I want these ridges really deep, so I can then take my paper and kind of smash my paper into this ridge, and I'll show you that in a second. But yeah, you want to go as deep as you possibly can get. If you get past the wood and you kind of break your wood, that's okay. Just throw some hot glue on the bottom, like attach it to a piece of paper with some hot glue, and you're good to go. Because this, and then here I'm using a scraper that I picked up in the kitchen section at Walmart. I'm also showing you how to do it with the popsicle stick. The popsicle stick honestly works even better, but you have to thin out the edge a little bit more to make that popsicle stick work for you. And you want to be gentle, and like you work your way down into it. You don't want to try to press the ridge in right away. You're going to rip the paper. Here I'm showing you that I used the ridge on my desk originally, and that worked even better than my template. Here I am making that ridge a little more defined. Okay, so we're going to glue the black on the roof now. So we have a section that goes here, a section that goes here, here, and here. There'll probably be a couple of cuts. Oh, there we go. That's nice. All right, so normally this piece would be the foam piece, but I'm using this as the example for now. We're going to cut this part off right on that ridge. I need to correct myself here. I said on the ridge, I meant by the ridge. You just want to cut next to the ridge. Push that ridge in. Make sure it's nice and clean ridge. I'm going to hide it, put the other one right underneath it, like so. And that's how we line it up, okay? I have all my pieces roughly cut. You want to give yourself like 5 millimeters of space on the outside here. Yeah, so 5 millimeters on either side. I suggest using hot glue. If you use ModPodge or any other like wet glue, it's going to warp your foam. So if you look closely here, it warped my porch. So because I didn't have something on the other side to combat it. So the wet glue works great when it comes to fusing 2 pieces of white foam together. So like this right here, this right here, this white right here, this seam right here, for the floor. Like all of this is great for gluing together with your wet glue. But when it comes to installing your roof, yeah, mainly your roof and this right here, we'll get to this. I'm going to turn everything upside down. Let's also mark 5 millimeters on this edge here. One, 2, 3, 5. And we'll put one more right there. Okay. Now we line it up to the top because we don't need that to extend off at all. And I think there we go. That's the first one. Now we just work our way over from that. I'm gonna put a little bead here. And press it in and under. Press down. Now we're gonna throw a bead across here. Let's secure that a little better. Oops, come on. I don't want to get my hands hot, so I'm just gonna bead down here. And put that over the top, like so. Press it down. Okay, so let's line that up, press down. Looks pretty good. You then actually would bend this side over, like so, to hide the foam on the other side. That's it, unless you wanted to actually buy black foam, and then that would make it a lot easier, now that I think about it. But and then you'll actually take some hot glue and bead into here. And fold it up. You'll probably get some hot glue on your fingers at this point, and it burns. It's like it burns, it's hot, but you'll heal. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. You're gonna have some excess on either side, and you just take your knife and you cut it off. Make sure you give yourself 5 millimeters at least on the bottom here as well, so you can fold it over. It all lined up here. It's all folded over on this edge, and then folded down a little bit on this edge too. Okay, so the rest of the roof is pretty much the same as that part. I originally ended up cutting these two pieces as one piece. I recommend not doing that. Just cut it off here and have this part overlap this part, and you'll be just fine. Make sure you line up these lines at least. And then the top part here, this was just black. I just folded it once over the top and it was fine. I had some excess of the folded, the corrugated, I guess is a word I could use for this, and I ended up using that for this part. And you're welcome to do the same or do what I did here. Entirely up to you. All right, so let's talk about the porch here. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. You basically, the first thing that I recommend you do so you don't make the same mistake I did. So as you can see, my front porch kind of bows, and it's because I covered the top here with the ModPodge glue, and that loosened, and it kind of loosened and tightened things and made the whole thing kind of bow up like this. So before you do that, make sure you put some, like, get hot glue and some toothpicks on the bottom here. I need to clarify, I don't mean toothpicks, I meant popsicle sticks, like the big long 8-inch ones, 6-inch ones, or take your metal ruler, if you have multiple ones, and hot glue them on the back, because you can pop metal off, because hot glue doesn't really stick to metal very well. So you can pop it off when you're done. It just like, or another option is you can even just glue another piece of foam on the bottom completely, like cover the entire bottom is 2 pieces of foam. It gives it more stability, and it would also prevent the bowing of the porch. I basically just laid it down and made sure that that a seam was in the middle of the stick next to it. Now let's talk about the inside walls. So after I ModPodged and combined the 2 pieces together and let it dry, I then took my hot glue and I covered the seams all the way around with hot glue. As you can see here, my measurements were slightly off somehow, to the point where it wasn't a snug fit like that. So I dabbed some hot glue on the one side to give it a little bit more of a snug fit. And also over time, as the kid plays with it, it gets loose. So I just add some more glue to tighten it up. In fact, it needs a little bit more tightening right now, so I'll do that. So we're just going to put a dab of hot glue right here. There we go. You can see the daub there. Let's do one more right here. That will dry, and then while that's going, I'm gonna actually put a line on this section right here. Hot glue in there, close it. There we go. To make this so it's stronger, I end up doing this all the way around the entire seam. And that just strengthens it quite a bit. It keeps the paper from peeling up for the most part. And yeah, looks like this is dry. And now it should fit nice and snug inside here, but we'll wait because it's still a little tacky. So you basically do the same thing with this guy. It fits in there nice and snug. I hope you guys found that useful. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are looking to do this project and you want the materials, so there is a link in the description below that will take you to my Etsy page where you can purchase the plans for this dollhouse. And that helps me and supports this channel, as like, you know the drill. Anyway, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Cheers.